There are misconceptions. A hospice is going to kill you because they drug you up and you're not aware of anything. It's really not. It's a team of people that's going to care for you better. And I said, if anything, it's going to improve the quality of your life. We'll get some things together to help you to make this process easier for you and your family. And I said, Jimmy Carter. I said, our president, he was over 100. The man would not die. Because you know why? Because he was on hospice for 1.5 years. Because he got better care. And they go, he was alive for 1.5 years. Yeah, and he was 100 years old. So that's a testimony for you.
Welcome to In Good Company, Elder Care in Your Backyard.
Today, we're joined by Executive Director Anjanette LaBellarte and Assistant Director Matt Day of the Hospice Foundation for Outreach, a nonprofit helping communities rethink what it means to truly live. They're creating space for more honest, meaningful conversations at life's end. As a caregiver and a cancer survivor, drive a shared mission for compassion. We'll show how their stories inspire others to show up with more courage, and we'll preview the upcoming film, The Soft Surrender. Anjanette and Matt, welcome to our show.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, welcome. So tell us about the Hospice Foundation and for outreach, right? Mm-hmm. You just went through a name change. Yes. So it used to be Hospice Foundation in the Ozarks. Mm-hmm. What prompted the name change, the rebranding? How has it evolved over time from its first beginnings to today?
So Hospice Foundation of the Ozarks we have awarded grant money here locally in our community. And so to make a long story short, we started doing bigger things that affected the nation. And with our film and exhibition that's coming, Randy Bacon had mentioned, he says, are you sure you want to keep your name the way it is? Because this film is going to be sent all over the nation. We plan to send it to museums, to state capitals, to medical schools, those things. So have you consider? I said, we were talking about that. We were talking that we needed to change our name. So we wanted to keep the HFO. So we just changed it for outreach. So Hospice Foundation for Outreach, because that's what we're doing. We're giving outreach, giving resources to not just our community here in the Ozarks, but all over the nation. And, we covered all of Missouri too. And not everything in the Missouri is of the Ozarks.
That's true.
So,
that totally makes sense.
Pigeonhole everything. So we felt like we needed to expand. And
that's
that's
awesome.
where the name change came up.
Okay, well, we're going to get into the soft surrender here a little bit later.
Okay.
I'm excited to hear about it a lot. So let me switch gears a little bit. So let me talk about personal journey, Matt. You had some health issues early on, and how did that experience affect what you're doing today?
I'm going to, without getting too emotional. So yes, I was what I thought was a very healthy young man, very active. So caught me completely off guard. So I was diagnosed with cancer at the age of 34. I had nothing in plans of having a health scare like that. So I have been very fortunate. I have been in remission for almost 13 years now. And with that, I have many years of struggling of why was I spared and so many others have not been. What was my journey? Why was God intending for me to do? Long story short, this amazing opportunity came along. I was starting out as a part-time, and it has evolved into becoming the assistant director, which absolutely is mind-blowing to my eyes because I don't realize how many people I'm affecting every day when I talk about my story. Because when I talk to younger groups, they just don't think that that's possible. Even though we see it on TV, they don't think about it until they see somebody in person. So I feel like that's why I've been blessed. God saved me, and to carry on this mission of there is hope.
Yeah. Boy,
and I call him my poster child because
not a child anymore, but
well, because he looks young, and so everybody thinks hospice is and palliative care is for old people.
Right.
It's not about that.
No.
It's about people living life. You get diagnosed with a disease, It could be, COPD. It could be Lou Gehrig's disease.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
And then, but it can rock anyone's world. It could be any age. It could be breast cancer. It could be, and that's what happened to Matt. So when because a lot of people they tune that out. They're thinking, well, that's for older people. No,
Right.
he's a testimony. He had those same thoughts, those same struggles that families go through. What's going to happen? Who's going to take care of me? Why I'm going through this. Am I going to work? How are we going to live? All the things that families have to go through when you're faced with a diagnosis.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it won't happen to me. We all think it.
Yeah.
We all think.
Yeah, when you see when he goes up to talk, they're like, "Oh, you had cancer." Oh my. Yeah, he did. And he survives, and which doesn't always happen that way, but
That's right. Yeah.
And we feel fortunate to have him out there talking, and so then he gets people to think.
Yeah, definitely. We need to talk about it more, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let me switch gears here real quick. Anjanette,
Yes.
your path began with volunteering, and then you were a full-time caregiver for your grandmother. How did that experience reshape your sense of what families truly need at the end of life?
Well, unless you go through it, you're not going to really understand what people go through on a daily basis. And I wasn't even looking for this to happen. I had a heart for hospice and palliative care years ago because I read this book, and it talked about how the nuns saw the same things that happened at the end of life. And I thought, oh my, I want to learn more about that. So I became a hospice volunteer when the kids were little. And so I became a hospice volunteer, and I got I learned a lot by becoming that. And I got to be with the families as they experienced this. And there was joy in that too. I mean, and you think that's sad and depressing, but there's joy also with families coming together and helping a loved one to go to the next phase.
Yeah.
And so here you go. I was a volunteer. Fast forward several years, the kids are older. They're 28 and 25. And then I got presented with to be on the board of Hospice Foundation for the Ozarks. And I was like, well, maybe that's what I'm supposed to do, because I had another experience with hospice, because when COVID hit, I got laid off from Mercy Health Foundation. I was one of the lowest on the totem pole, and they were doing a lot of layoffs. And I only been there a year.
Okay.
But my grandmother was in the nursing home. And whenever COVID went on, the nursing homes were shut down. You could not get in there. And, I hope we learn some things from that event on what to do with our older population. But, they're isolated for months. We could only talk through a window outside. And I could see she was deteriorating. So when I got laid off, I got severance. Mercy was good to me. And so I went and got her out of the nursing home and brought her home on hospice. And she was 90 years old, and I got to take care of her full time. And I'm so glad I got to experience that. She had dementia. So I had got to understand what it's like to have someone you love with dementia. And the caregiving, and I had to bathe her and take care, like a child.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting to go through it, but I lived it. And so it was like it was all lined up. And then here I am. I get to talk about it all the time and share my experiences. But I understand what families go through because I went through it myself. And I took care of it till she passed.
Oh.
In my home.
Wow.
So that was such a blessing. Yeah. So I go around, it's like, no, it's not what you see on the movies, y'all. It's not as glamorous as what it shows.
Yeah.
And it's hard work and all. But to be able to spend that time with your loved one and use hospice program is just the way to go.
Yeah.
If you're going to do it. So I got to have several months with her. A lot of people think it's fast. You're going to, oh gosh, you're on hospice. You're going to die tomorrow. No, that's not true. If you wait too late, then you may only have one day.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you'll talk about all that. But I'm just saying, it's just, you can have a beautiful experience with somebody if you get on hospice early. You get to like really, I know that sounds weird to say it can be joyful or be happy.
Yeah.
But you can. Yeah.
It is rarely said that way for sure. But both of you have said that hospice is a blessing, not a last resort. What does that mean for people out there who may not be familiar with the hospice program?
There was a friend of mine, and we, our kids grew up together in Nixa schools. And she calls me and she says, Anjanette, I need you to help me talk to my parents because they don't want to be on hospice. And Dad needs to go to the hospice because he's gone to the emergency room 13 times this year.
Wow.
And that's too much because when you take your loved one to the emergency room, you expose them to all kinds of germs. They're there for 13 hours and this person's deathly sick. It's a horrible experience. So anytime you hear someone, side note, if you hear someone say, they've been to the emergency room several times, 13 is extreme. That's too much. That's a sign you need to get hospice because you can call them 24 hours, 7 days a week, and they'll come to you. But their misconceptions were, when I went in to visit with them, hospice is going to kill you because they drug you up and you're not aware of anything. You're going to become a drug addict. They were worried that's what was going to happen, that he was going to eventually be killed by hospice. And I was like, I'm sorry you heard that. It's really not. It's a team of people, just extra hands to a care team that's going to care for you better. And I said, if anything, it's going to improve the quality of your life and your family's life. You get the equipment and the things you need. If anything if you're in pain in any way, shape, or form, we're going to figure out a way that you're not.
Right.
If there's issues that you're having with getting a shower or help to the bathroom and things like that, we'll get some things together to help you to make this process easier for you and your family. So when I was able to explain to them, it's not about shoving drugs down your throat and killing you. And I said, Jimmy Carter, I said, our president, he was over 100. The man would not die. Because you know why? Because he was on hospice for 1.5 years.
Yeah.
Because he got better care. And they go, he was alive for 1.5 years. Yeah, and he was 100 years old. So that's a testimony for you.
Yeah.
To show that you can be on it for a long time. And I said, plus I get phone calls. Matt and I get phone calls. My mother was kicked out of hospice, or she's been graduated from hospice, or my dad is not on hospice. Oh, well, I'm sorry. Can you, or they want us to do something about it. And I said, I'm sorry, but your family member got better. So they don't qualify for hospice anymore. Right. So that's actually a blessing.
Yeah.
So people don't know that either.
Yeah.
And so that's what we try to do in a positive way. So that was some of the misconceptions. Matt's may have heard some other ones.
Some of the misconceptions that I have whenever I'm out in speaking in groups is a lot of people are unaware of how it's paid for. And I think that that's something that really needs to be brought to attention, because I feel like that, especially more of the older gentlemen, they feel like that, that's something they don't want to go on. And once I find out what's behind that is they feel like that, they've worked hard to prepare for this time, and they want to make sure that their spouse, their children are taken care of after they're gone. So if it's them being pampered by this service and it comes out of their estates, they're not going to have it. They would rather just suffer, because that's what the older gentlemen's were. That's just how the men were. They were hard backboned. And, I feel like that once I'm able to share with them, that if you're on Medicare, Medicaid, private insurance, hospice is covered 100%. Also, it covers some of the initial or the essentials that you are continuing to pay for, that will be paid for with the hospice, So, and I don't know the 100% of every in and outs of what it does cover. But once, I talk to them about, this is something that you should at least just check into.
Right.
They're more open-minded about it. And, the thing about it is it's not about giving up. Hospice isn't about giving up. It's about living better.
Right.
And, go back to my story, knowing now what I know, if I am diagnosed with cancer again, I do know that I am going to go through treatments again. If the doctor feels that it's a chance that a survival rate's there, just because I've had a success rate with that before.
Right.
But I also know now that I didn't know then that if I don't want to continue treatment after treatment after treatment, cancer cells are not shrinking, there is no sight of improvement, I know what my next steps are.
Right.
And that is to reach out to hospice and say, hey, I'm not giving up. I'm going to live my life better till the end.
Right.
And that's what and when I talk in groups, that's what I tell people. I'm not here to persuade you one way or another on whether you should give up or you could continue to fight, because you're the only one that makes those decisions.
Right.
I'm just here to help you learn that there's other alternatives versus fighting till the end.
Right.
And being someone that has gone through chemo, to know that you're going to have a lot of days of down.
Right.
And if I'm exposed to that experience again, I want to know that my last days until I am no longer able to be up, I want to be out enjoying it with my kids.
Right.
If I have grandkids by that time.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to share to people, because, people hear hospice and they immediately just close their ears because it's a bad word. And, I've had a lot of people say, well, why don't we just change that word? Well, that doesn't solve the problem, because whatever word we attach it to, again, that's going to be a negative word. So what I see is we make a change of how it sounds.
Right.
We tell people what the experiences really are for them and their family.
Yeah.
And we put a little fun happiness with it when we speak about it. We don't wear a lot of black, which I'm wearing a little black pants.
Oh,
We try not to wear a lot of black because we want everything to be full of hope.
Yeah.
And not anything just heavy.
Yeah.
And so people are able to receive the message
Yeah.
more from us, because we don't get anything out of the deal. We're a nonprofit. So we're talking about hospice and palliative care because that's what we stand for. But as far as getting business or cash, there's nothing that happens with that. We let the hospice companies do their job, but we're here to go out and educate and communicate
That's great.
what hospice and palliative care is, and that it's a good thing. And it's better for our communities if they know and truly understand what hospice and palliative care is. And it's a good resource. It's not bad. It's a good resource. We're fortunate to have it in the United States of America.
Right.
I also talk about that. In other countries, they don't have hospice.
Yeah.
And so can you imagine? I can't.
No.
I don't want to imagine it. To have someone, I would want someone to help me with my symptoms and my pain and comfort.
Yeah.
If I'm laying in that bed, you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I do think in our society, there's a lot of misconceptions because of what they've seen in their own families in the past, where, somebody has not had the hospice conversation, early enough and don't really understand what it is and really do believe those myths that you talked about. And so, their aunt, their uncle, their mom, their dad did go on to hospice and passed away relatively quickly.
Right.
And they think the hospice had something to do with that when it really was that it just waited so long. And speaking from somebody who lost two parents, that neither one of them went on to hospice. One, I didn't get the opportunity because it happened so fast. And the other one, we were in a hospital system that just didn't offer it. I mean, I knew what hospice was, and, they knew based on my father's prognosis that he needed to go on hospice, and it just wasn't a choice that was really given. We didn't get to talk anything. They ultimately put him on palliative care. And so what my experience with it is that as a family member, I got zero support. So no bereavement, no social work, none of the things that help you prepare for those to even, when I was sitting with my father, I knew what the last stages of, but some other family member would not have any idea. It'd terrify them, just because they didn't know it was the natural state of things when someone's passing away. And so that's that misconception just seems like it's very common because there aren't as many people out there who someone went on to hospice and they got to experience months or years of hospice. A year or more is rare in the hospice world, extremely rare. Most of the time it is days and hours and that sort of thing. So those are great concepts.
And people don't, we also educate people about history. People don't remember because we weren't alive then, but in the good old days, people died at home. And so, the person would pass away at home and it took the whole household to take care of that person. And so when they passed, they just leave the body in the house. They put some ice or they had 3 days that people would come in and out with food. Kids were touching the body. There was all kinds of people coming in and out of that house. So death was part of life in people's homes.
Yeah.
Then we pulled it out of the homes and then it made everything more sterile. And what I heard, this is things that I heard, but as far as embalming and bodies and things that didn't happen till the war, because they needed to preserve the bodies to send them home. Well, then it became a moneymaker. So that's where the funeral homes and all that come into play. And so that's where everybody thought that they needed to do that with the body. And so here we go. And so all this has been taken out of our homes, away from children, away from people to say the D word, die, death, the whole thing. And I feel like it's a disservice. We've got to embrace it, just like we do beginning of life. And we talk about that all the time, that there's beauty at end of life, just like it is in the beginning. Right. We just have to find that, Yeah. Because we're all going to die. But I don't know how I'm going to, how anyone is. But we just need to know that's going to happen and have those hard conversations. And that's what Matt and I talk about. Have those conversations. Tell us what you want. When how do you want your life to be? How do you want it to be at end of life? Plan those things.
Yeah.
So it is. It's really odd to hear people say, yeah, I know I'm going to die, but not to be open enough to talk about if they become ill, what would be their next steps. They don't want to talk about it then, but they know that that's going to happen to all of us. That's the only way that we're going to leave this earth is by passing. So why people are so fearful of it, as myself, I grew up where we didn't talk about death. I couldn't get my mother to really talk about death much until I started this position. And I remember as a child, when my great-grandfather passed away, I remember, us hearing about it. We got dressed up. We went to family night. But of course, she doesn't pull us kids out of school for the funeral, which it's, acceptable. But there was really not a whole other topics brought up about it.
Yeah.
So I just feel like that, we've shifted that fear by doing this. But I think by opening that conversation back up, I think with a lot of the younger generation, I feel like that they're a little more open to things than what we are.
Right.
And I'm hoping that with this chapter of life that they embrace it and they say that, this is part of life. Why are we scared to talk about this? This is what I want. And that's what we do. Is try to just start the conversation,
Absolutely. I mean, the number one thing, I think the point of hospice is to end suffering. Ultimately, it's to decrease the amount of suffering in the world. And the reason why I mentioned my father earlier is that he suffered more because there wasn't a system in place to say it's time for him, for us to talk about hospice. And I mentioned this in previous episodes that as a child of someone, even if you know what hospice is, sometimes it's difficult to have that conversation with your own parent. And having someone who's able to come in and be that intermediary to have those difficult conversations really does help. But my dad did suffer more because no one could have that conversation with him and help me explain, what things were going to happen for him before he passed away. And so you speak to so many things out there. And I think a lot of people might, think, well, they'll be ready when they're ready. But if they don't totally understand everything that goes into that death is a natural thing, that it'll be less pain, less suffering, more emotional support to the family, and more conversations about this is what's going to happen. And after this is over, how do we celebrate that? I remember as a child, I had an aunt that passed away. I didn't get to go to the funeral. Nobody really ever talked about it. And I was fairly young, but it took years for me to remember that she had passed away. I kept asking about her, and they're like, no, Aunt so-and-so passed away. And it's like, I just didn't quite absorb that. I didn't have the closure as a family member. And, I'll never forget that, when after Aunt G passed away, like my bewilderment with that, because, I wasn't part of that closure. And how important that part is in this process is the family members sometimes are left more, worse off than they, because they didn't get a chance to have somebody to support them through that.
They're all different kinds. Like I have families I talk to from Vietnam, the Hispanic community. They all handle everything differently, but they're also doing the same things that we are having to deal with and struggle with as far as taking care of someone who's ill in your home. What are we going to do? Who's going to take care of that person? How are we going to navigate all these things, these moving parts? How are we going to navigate the doctor's appointments, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And so we're always changing the message depending on who you're talking to, because we're not just focusing on communities. We're focusing also on the frontline people, the doctors and the nurses that are doing this, because in medical school, they talk maybe 30 minutes about how to have the hard conversations about end of life. But to have a baby, they'll give you a day and a half of training. So this is what we're up against, because the family might be for it, but the doctor will say, no, that person's not ready yet. And that's a whole nother topic that we have to hear on a continual basis of doctors fighting us to put that person on hospice because they're not ready yet. Okay, well, there's all the symptoms and they qualify.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you do? And then nurses, they do go through the same thing. So then I hear story after story about nurses when they clock off from work, then they tell the family, let me tell you what's actually going on with your grandmother, your father, your mother, your brother, your sister. Let me tell you what's actually going on now that I'm off the clock.
Wow.
Oh, and they're like, oh, okay, well, we didn't know. I know you didn't know.
Yeah.
But we probably have you maybe just a few days left or a few hours left. When you get hit with something like that, wouldn't you like to spend that last bit of time with your person that you love with quality?
Yeah.
Instead of like running around trying to figure, oh my gosh, what are we going to do now? Like have everything in place. You already had the talks with everything else. But I mean, it's not just the community that we're having to educate. We're having to communicate to the front line medical people too.
Absolutely.
That's a whole nother thing. But
But it all plays together
Yeah.
because so many people rely heavily on what the healthcare system tells them. And, if that focus is, and totally understandable, like a physician's focused on getting that person better. That's what they're there to do. For a physician to kind of change their mindset of, wait a second, I have to realize, there's a quality of life component here where medicine has side effects that, are going to affect that quality of life. Even though I may be extending their life, maybe the quality of that life isn't going to be as good. And, stepping back from that is sometimes really hard when you have a physician that's very, very focused on doing their job.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you said, the training focus is on doing that job. The other piece of it sometimes isn't maybe as focused on, but I think there are great physicians out there that get this, obviously. But it is a mindset for sure. And it starts in the culture of our society, because, we're taught how to deal with death. And, if my parents didn't want to talk about death and wanted to protect me from death, then naturally I want to do the same thing for my children.
Yes.
And that gets passed down generation to generation. And we have an option to stop that cycle and say, death is natural, it's normal, and talk about it openly. So then that way people can accept that. Sometimes I try to talk to my own kids about my death and they don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
They really don't want to hear it at all. They're like, don't tell me, and they're putting their fingers in their ears, la, 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 that sort of thing. But it's important, for them to understand that I'm not going to be here forever, and that I'm trying to prepare them for life when I'm gone. And so much of that is that I do want to say a good goodbye to my kids in one way or another. Even if I don't know that it's coming, at least maybe I can leave something behind for them. So I've written them all letters and that sort of thing, ready for whatever comes. But just that process of thinking about your own mortality, in my opinion, does help your life now.
It does. It truly does. And, my kids were the same way. They like, Mom, we don't want to talk about that. I said, I understand, but I just want you to know so then you don't have to worry. Because what I've heard from doctors and nurses, there's lots of Jerry Springer fights in the emergency rooms. And if people would have the conversation, if they have it written out, then there will not be as many Jerry Springer big old fight, knockdown, drag out fights in the emergency room. And guess who gets to deal with all of it? The doctors, the nurses get to deal with all your family dynamics. But if you would totally have everything out, told, at least have the conversation, please. Yeah. What is it you want? We need to do whatever we can to save Mom. Well, Mom said she didn't want to be on that ventilator. Well, we got to do whatever we can to save Mom. Then there's a big fight. And then they never talk again because they didn't like how things were handled. But if Mom would have had it written out, didn't matter what anybody wanted or not, follow what Mom, and then you don't have the guilt. You don't have to worry. You did what she wanted. Yeah. So then, even if you disagreed with your mom, like I told my children, I tell everybody when I speak, I want a disco party and I want to be shot off in a firework like they do at Green Lawn Funeral Home. So, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's
I want to be shot off. They're like, oh, Mom, oh my gosh, Mom, you're just a little too much extra. Yeah. But that's who I am. So,
But it's that starting the conversation.
Yeah.
That's what it, and it's, and I think people are afraid to start that conversation because they don't want to start that squabble. They don't want to start that. Yeah. Well, that's not what I want you to do. And, and I just tell people up front, it's your decision. It's your decision on what you want. Mm-hmm. But it's horrible for them to find this out after you've gone, because a lot of people say, I just want to do it and then just not tell anybody. And these are my decisions. Yeah. So then they have all of that they have to bear with. And, so if you can just start the conversation. We had one with our youngest, and it was of being cremated versus buried. She just assumed that buried was the way we were going. Well, we've changed. We've changed our thoughts on those. Yeah. And, we asked her, why? And it opened it up. It opened up that conversation for her to tell us why. And all it was there was no place for her to go to visit us. We're like, oh, so she didn't know that you could still be cremated and still be put in a plot. And now her thought is, wasn't that a waste of land? I mean, she's 24, so
she's really thinking through this stuff. I mean,
but it's that, and I tell people, it's about starting the conversation.
Right.
So now, when it's all said and done, she now knows it's not a shocker.
Yep.
And she knows that we can be divided into threes for each of our kids. And, we don't have to go to a plot if we don't want. If we want to give each one of them a piece of our ashes,
Yeah.
And I know that's way off of the hospice topic, but, it's still part of that end of life. And, everyone that's on hospice, they have to be thinking about it. I mean,
Absolutely.
that they are. I've not ever had to, be that far into a health crisis to start thinking about burials and things like that. But I think if you get a terminal illness that you won't overcome,
Right.
you're going to start thinking and, just start talking to the family ahead of time, because I'm sorry, I just don't think that on your last month, that's what we want to have to talk about.
Yeah.
I really want my kids to be able to gather around me. If I'm able to go do something fun, let's bring on new memories.
Right.
And if I can't get out of bed, let's sit around and talk about the vacations we've had. And let's talk about, what? Let's go ahead and talk about the things I did that made you mad. It's okay. Let's
work it out.
Let's work it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, and you yourself, you probably know these stories, but we hear where people, they're having a very rough death. They're in a lot of pain and they can't get that pain under control. And, the hospice nurses, they know this stuff. And this is what's so crazy is they're so knowledgeable of these things. And they come to find out that there's an estranged child or something has happened where they don't have peace with somebody. And they've got that to be able to bring that peace in, whether it's bring that person that they've not spoken to in years.
Yeah.
And they said immediately, it's like they just go into a peaceful state. And so to me, that's like, okay, let's not wait until we get sick. Let's bury whatever we've got.
Yep.
Let's get everything in the open.
Yeah.
And one thing that I was raised as a child, and this probably is really crazy to some people, but it's just how I was raised. And I am 50 years old. I'll tell how old I am. I don't care. I'm 50 years old. No matter what time of the day it is, when I hang up the phone with my mother, it's always, I love you. And the same for her.
Yeah.
Even with text, it's, I love you. And that is because you never know when that's going to be the last time that you get to tell somebody that you love them.
Absolutely.
And, that's, knowing that if something was to happen to my mother now, I know that my last words that I spoke to her or text to her was, I love you.
Yeah.
And I hope a lot of other people hear this and think, life could be that short.
Yeah.
Any of us could leave out of here today and be killed in a car accident. We could have heart conditions and just pass away immediately and never have that opportunity to tell somebody goodbye.
Yeah.
So that's very, didn't even think I was going to mention anything like that today.
That's
but
good.
I don't know. There was just, that gives me peace, of knowing that sometimes people don't get to say goodbyes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I didn't get to say goodbye to my mother. I got to say goodbye to my father, and it really affected me a lot. And everybody deals with these things in different ways. My mother did not want to talk about death, did not want to talk about her last wishes at all. The only thing I was left with is that I knew she wanted to be cremated, and that she didn't want a traditional funeral or anything like that. She and the way that I've kind of dealt with things in my way is, Mom always wanted to travel. She always wanted to, and she never really got a chance to. and she wanted to travel the world, but she just never was in a position to do that. And we wanted to, that was something that I had on my agenda to try to make sure that she experienced. And when she passed away very suddenly, that never happened. So I have these little vial things that I put a little bit of her ashes in, and everywhere that I travel, I take it to a special place in wherever it is, whether it's, Rome or wherever, and I take it to a special place and I say something to Mom, and that's how I honor her in my own way, but just to let her know that I'll never forget her and that I love her, and that, everybody has their own way of doing that, like whether it's going to a plot or, whether it takes up space or not, or if you have those ashes, close to you and you're celebrating that in your own way and having that memory. So
Mom went on trips with you.
Mom's still coming on trips with me.
Absolutely.
Every trip.
Bravo. That's beautiful. My father was putting a smiley face cookie jar because that's what he wanted. And so we had Dad in a big smiley face cookie jar, and we just go, "Hey, Dad, how are you?" But that's really cool how you did that.
Oh,
I had a business professional reach out to me, and her in-laws. They didn't want to have any conversations like this at all. They're in their 80s, and they didn't want to. They were in that time that you don't talk about things like this. But she kept insisting, "You guys need to get yourself and your things in order. Tell us what you want. How do you want things, about your healthcare directive? Let's get those things done," and things like that. So she went on and got them to do it. They had the conversation. He was on palliative care. He was still in good health, doing good, doing great. But one day he just was putting on his socks and had a heart attack and passed right there. And this was just about a month ago. And she says, "Anjanette, it was the best thing, even though it's sad losing him. But what was great is we actually got to grieve him, not go through all the rigmarole. Well, what did he want to wear? What songs did he want to play? What are we supposed to do? Did he want to be cremated? Did he want to donate his organs? What?"
Yeah.
So that's where they had and they already had all the talks. Yeah. So they were actually able to just enjoy his life, enjoy him. And then whenever he passed, they didn't have to worry about any of that. They could just focus on the funeral and focus on the times they had with him and grieve.
Wow.
So it's a gift. Mm-hmm. It's a gift if people would have these talks.
Yeah,
absolutely.
To their families.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Storytelling seems central to your guys' mission.
Yes.
Why are stories so powerful in changing hearts and minds and end-of-life care?
For me, when Matt and I go and speak, people like to hear the stories because you can sit there and you can talk about data. This is how much millions of dollars it saves for our country and the hospitals, and for you not to use hospice. That's because hospice and palliative care saves money, and you can talk about all the data and why it's important. People just tune out unless you tell a story that they feel like they can relate to. Then they'll perk their ears up, and they're like, "Oh, actually." I care what they're saying. I can hear my family in this story. Mm-hmm. So then they pay attention. And we've spoken to all different kinds. Like we spoke in Republic schools. We have this program called Bucket List Plus One where people get their healthcare directives done, and jury students created this program. So anyone over the age of 18 needs to get their healthcare directives. But we also have, what's your bucket list? What are the things you want to do? Where do you want to go visit? Where do you want to travel? What concerts you want to go to? And then on the other side, it talks about what's in a healthcare directive. Do you want an open closed casket? Do you want a green burial? Do you want a celebration of life party? Then it says, the students say, they came up with, what do you want to do with your social media accounts? Well, I never thought of that. What to do with the social media accounts. And so then we have that healthcare directive, and we tell them to prepare them for being 18 and being out in the world. But, they're sitting there going, "Oh gosh, why is this woman coming to my class and talking to me about this stuff? This is not even anything that I care about." So you have to adapt the message so they care. So I told them all kinds of gory stories about people and their lives ending and then being young. And they're like, they perk up. Instead of being on their phone, they're perking, oh yeah. And then they'll throw, this is what happened to my grandpa whenever this happened, or because you're educating the younger people, talking about what the difference between hospice and palliative care is. I didn't have a clue what hospice and palliative care, the difference was until I got in this
Could
job.
you define that for us?
Yes,
Just for our
I can.
listeners?
Yes, and I'll do it Anjanette style.
Fantastic. That's what we want.
Okay, so hospice is if you got a diagnosis or disease and you have 6 months or less, and not everyone qualifies. You have to have it's like a prescription. You have to have the doctor sign to say they want you to get evaluated so you qualify. So it's a really good thing. That's what I tell people. And then palliative care is, let's say I'm 45 years old or even in my 30s and I get diagnosed with COPD or dementia or ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, and all these disease. It could be years before I go anywhere. But, I need help as I'm going on that journey. And so that's what palliative care is. Palliative care is a program that families get to take advantage of when someone has a disease, and they get extra help, extra care, and helping the whole family, not just that patient, the whole family to help as the disease progresses. And whether it's equipment, whether it's counseling, whether it's extra help, with doctors talking among themselves, but you have to, certain insurance companies cover it, some don't. So, I let people know that too. But either way, both of those programs are excellent for families. They need to take advantage of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Wow, you covered a lot
That
of
was
bases
great.
there all at once. That was really good. That was really good.
Well, it's like, how do we talk it in simple terms that we don't make people black out? Like, oh my gosh, she's talking too much. So
we have many listeners that are adult children caring for patient or parents and grandparents. And so having lived that role yourself, Anjanette, what advice would you give family caregivers who feel overwhelmed or uncertain about when to reach out for help?
a lot of times that I've noticed families wait so late before they ask for help. And it's because they're trying to deal with it themselves. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of misconception around the caregivers. People don't realize that the caregivers are going through so much being a caregiver, and it takes a group. It's not just one person's job. It can't be just grandma's job. It has to be, everyone has to take a shift. You're going to wear her out. There needs to be 3 or 4 people taking turns. And not everybody has that resource.
Right.
I know I dealt with a lady, let me put my water down, but there was a lady that refused any hospice company, refused any help from any hospital because she didn't trust any of them. And she was in her 40s and she had bone cancer. So I just started with this job and they wanted me to come talk to the lady about hospice and palliative care. Well, she trusts me because we were a nonprofit and we didn't get anything out of the deal. So we weren't exchanging money or anything. And I'm going in, I'm shaking. I'm saying, God, please help me to know what to say to them, but they didn't see that I was shaking. But I came in there, and in the room, she's laying in the bed. There's her husband standing beside her. There is 2 church members there, and there's a daughter in the closet that's 18, hiding in the closet. But she had the door open, but she was in the closet because it was traumatizing for them. The whole family was experiencing it, but they've been trying to do it on their own, you see, without hospice or palliative care. With bone cancer, you're under a lot of pain. She goes, I don't know why I'm laying in this bed. I don't know why I'm laying in this bed. She goes, I was just mowing the yard last week. I said, oh my goodness, that is wonderful that you were out there mowing that yard. I said, but it's just part of the disease progress. It's just, but we need to get you some help so that you're not in any not being uncomfortable. Well, what people don't realize is that these caregivers, like the husband, he has to work. He has to pay the bills. So who's going to stay at home 24 hours, 7 days a week to take care of this patient? Well, the daughter has to go to work, go to school. And the church is trying to help. It's a community thing. And so the husband started crying because he's so exhausted. He was up every few minutes with her through the night because she's in such pain. And all she was taking was Tylenol. That's it. Oh. Tylenol. So this poor woman was in excruciating pain. The husband is trying his hardest to figure out how to help her. Plus he goes, I'm trying to find jobs that are close. He's a trucker. He's trying to find jobs that is close. He has to work. And then his daughter didn't want to study abroad, but she was scared to leave her mom because she didn't know they didn't really truly know what was going on. So after we talked, which sounds like we need to call in a little bit of help in here. And so she agreed to visit and talk about palliative care, but then eventually went into the hospice because they realized she was so far. She was only on hospice for 1 week before she passed. And it made me sad. It made me sad for her family, for the community, because she went through such unnecessary pain. The family went through unnecessary not having the help and supplies and resources that they needed. Yeah. If they would have reached out for help earlier, then they would have had comfort. Like I tell, if you want to go to Disneyland, you can go to Disneyland on hospice. If you feel good and all the things, you can go to Silver Dollar City if you want to. I have a lady who's on hospice right now, went with me to do a TV show on Color 10. I picked her up, put her in the car. We went over and did that. And she goes, I have a lot of life to live. And she's on hospice.
Wow.
That's amazing.
So, people, they just see the things on TV that, you're just.
Misconceptions.
Yes.
Gotcha.
We need to show reality.
Speaking of showing and switching gears, if I may, let's talk about The Soft Surrender, the film coming out this November. A portrait and film project by Randy Bacon. How did this collaboration come about, and what impact are you seeing in communities that experience it?
So we had this opportunity from a wonderful friend that is also in the hospice world. She had worked with Randy Bacon in the past when he had created the first one about 15 years ago called The Last Days of Extraordinary Lives. And that was actually Randy Bacon's first documentary film that he had ever produced.
Really?
And it is good. It is really good. We've watched it. So with that, we had a meeting with them. We took it back to the board and said, hey, this is what we're proposing. What if we was to get this film done? And what if we were to be able to use it as an educational piece for the hospice companies, for their new hires, hospitals to show for people in their fields, even more in the medical schools, to help the early doctors know what hospice is and help them relate to how it is a benefit. So the board was, of course, yes, this is huge. We need this. Not only right here in Springfield, but Randy Bacon is well known. So that's how that all got started. And it has been completed. Our first premiere is going to be November 1st at the Glois Theater in the historic downtown theater. It's our first ever fundraiser event. We have been around for 28 years and we have never hosted or had a fundraiser. So We're super excited. It just has every emotion that a human body can have. I think when people see this, it's a new door opening for, oh my gosh, why have we been so blinded by that word? Yeah. That's what I hope comes out of it.
Yeah. And everybody learns differently. So you have to do different ways of getting the message out. So we did the Bucket List Plus One program, which is for just everyone to get their healthcare directives done in a fun way. with not a lot of black in it, and just light. And then, okay, let's do a film and an exhibition that can be sent all over the United States so we can educate. But it's not just the people that are out in the communities, because it'll be at museums. It'll be at these things, which that'll learn. But we want the people on the front lines to learn this too.
Right.
We got to get to the doctors. Yeah. We've got to get to those nurses. We've got to get those people to see this so they're not scared. And this film, it's actual real life stories of people here in our backyard with all different diversity and sharing their stories about hospice and palliative care. And they still experience showing joy. I left walking on clouds. I did not go. I was sitting there thinking, oh, I'm going to cry. No, I didn't. I was happy. Yeah. I was like, this is exactly what we need to have to share a message about hospice and palliative care. It's real life stories.
Yeah.
The more that we see that we can affect bigger. And Randy's Bacon, his first one, he won lots of awards at film festivals. So he's thinking big. He's thinking like HBO, Netflix is going to pick it up.
Wow.
Yeah. Can you believe that? It's already been really picked up by Earthworks already.
That's great.
And the guy that we used all his music. His name is Clem Snide. It's a band, kind of a band that Randy Bacon knows. He lives in Nashville, but he's flying in for the event.
That's amazing.
And he's going to perform. But he has done music for a lot of the TV shows and things. Like one of them was Handmaid's Tale.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So for us to have this quality, I'm like, oh,
that's the real deal.
That's really cool.
We're going to be put on the map.
Love it.
And this is not about egos. This is not about HFO. This is about how can we get the message out that people leave feeling good when they leave.
Yeah. It's not about death. It's about life, right?
It's about living your best life while you're here.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the trailer for The Soft Surrender.
God, won't you meet me half the way? I've come.
I feel like whenever it comes to death and dying, I always think about how it makes other people around me feel with their relationship.
God, treat me as you would a child.
And I just think about all the things that I want to do and experience and live and be with, and hope that I get to do them before the end of my time.
Actually, we're all given a death sentence when we're born. We just don't know when that end's going to come. But whenever you're given a terminal, diagnosis, then it's more of a sentence with an explanation point to it, and get to it. Live your best life.
There is a part of me that's scared about the unknown. I think about my friends who've passed. I probably think the most about people who passed at really young ages. I think about my faith and what it tells me in the ways of life and death.
God, make me bend towards your light. Then softly lay me in the field.
I don't know, I just don't really think about death very much, which is maybe not the best thing, but it's what keeps me sane or happy, or I don't think it's something I fear necessarily, but maybe that's just because I'm still young and dumb and stupid and still learning.
It's scary, it's the unknown. I've had a lot of thoughts about that, and sometimes it'll keep me up at night.
It's just an inevitable thing, and it shouldn't be feared, or you shouldn't be scared of it either, because no one gets out of this alive. That fear around death is like dying alone in a hospital bed. I know that's my fear.
Oh, where do I end, and where is it that you begin? Guide me as I take my final stand.
I think about it probably a little bit more than I did before I was a father. My sons are everything. I don't want them having to figure out life without me.
What if we all knew the day that we were going to die? What if we knew that? If you did, would you go out and do whatever you wanted with excitement and with no cares?
Because we die, that makes life every day more precious, and that we need to enjoy every moment that we have instead of postponing and procrastinating.
I'm not sure what the right word is, but almost jealousy, I guess, of people who get to go on and find out what happens in the future. I guess that's my biggest fear about it, I think, not knowing what happens after.
God, please just meet me halfway. I'm here always at your command.
It's just such a generosity of spirit to be with somebody when they are dying and to try to, hold their hand as they move into that final chapter.
So circling back for a second, the Bucket List Plus One program is such a beautiful concept. Could each of you share a story that captures the heart of this initiative and a moment that really stays with you?
The biggest thing that I love whenever I present about Bucket List Plus One, which it's just a fun way of getting your healthcare directive done for anyone over the age of 18. But I love the biggest thing that I noticed when I was presenting in front of elderly people, I thought, oh gosh, they're gonna be so mad because I'm talking about this. That's surely they're like, they've heard this a million times and everything else. But I was pleasantly surprised because the way I presented it, they took all my Bucket List Plus One folders. I always have to bring extra. And I'm thinking, wow, this is so cool that they actually hadn't had it done. They didn't get it done, but they actually thought about doing it after I talked. It's like, oh, you didn't think about it till just now? I can't believe that. But to go into a skilled nursing facility and talk to them about this stuff, to me, it's just really cool just to watch their eyes and see how things click. And then they're like, oh, I need this for my grandchild. Or I need this for my daughter. I need this for my son. They're like open to what they want. Yes, and it's on our website.
It's on our website.
Fantastic.
Yes, and one day it's not going to be on the website. I'm just letting you know that. That's on our strategic plan.
We got to hurry.
We got to get that out there.
Yeah, you got to get the word out. Yeah, because we're getting it trademarked and all that so that it's going to start being something that we use to sell out to other companies because Citizens Memorial, they wanted to put it in all their clinics. Okay, well, that's going to cost.
Gotcha.
I need to at least cover the cost because we got grants to cover that, and we just translate it to Spanish. Bucket List Plus One.
One thing I like to do whenever I am presenting the bucket list is I try to make it fun and interactive. And by the first is, on your bucket list, mine is to travel. I love to travel, so I started out by that. And when I do this, I'm trying to show people how they have this conversation with their spouse. But it's fun to open that floor up. I always ask them, so do you have a bucket list? What's things on your bucket list? And I was at a group of caseworkers and I thought I had heard it all. And I will continue to do this conversation just because I love the stories. I had a lady in there said that the one thing on her bucket list is she said before she died, she wanted to at least get arrested once. And I'm like, okay. I mean, I've heard travel and this and that, but I just never thought that I would hear arrested. But anyway, like I said, it's that thing.
There's a joke in there somewhere, but I'm not going to go there.
But if that's what it takes to get somebody's guard down of talking about end of life preparations, then, we got to make it light. We've got to make it whatever to get somebody to start those conversations. So that's probably my craziest thing as far as, when presenting the bucket list. I've had a lot of close friends that I've presented the bucket list just of letting them know who I am and what I'm doing now. And it's led to kind of glazing over of like, oh my God, why is he talking to me about this stuff? I'm young. I don't need to hear it. Yep. And then I get a phone call about a month later, and this is true story here, that I had a close friend call me that her grandma was being put on hospice, and she just had a meltdown. And then the light bulb clicked. Oh, wait a minute. Matt talked to me something about hospice and bucket list. And so she calls me, and immediately, I'm like, hey, it's all good. Let's catch our breath and let's talk about this.
And she works for a bank, and so she's a business but she was meeting with Matt because we try to have these talks, and she's like, why is he talking to me like this? What's all this? She was like thinking that in her mind. Why does this even need to be talked about? I don't want to talk about this. But she was friendly and nice and smiled, did the whole thing, and then reached out to Matt later. And then she said that was one of the best things that she ever experienced was hospice, and Matt helping her through that.
Yeah.
So it really pumps you up. You're like, we're actually helping people.
Yeah.
This is so great,
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a great story.
That's awesome. The Light Partnership with Barnes Jewish Hospital and Washington University in St. Louis represents a major step in national hospice education. What's the vision behind it?
This was not anything that we were looking for. We gave money to WashU, which is part of Barnes Jewish. And in order for hospice and palliative care to still stay friendly, because it costs the government, they pay for it, we have to have data. So they asked for a grant from us, money, to give them for research about caregivers in rural communities. And so Springfield is surrounded by rural. And so we gave them the money to do that grant about caregivers and what they experience and what the things they're going through. So fast forward, they got their data and all the things. Oh, Anjanette or HFO, thank you so much. We needed that and blah, blah, blah. Then they reached out and asked, hey, would you want to partner with us? Because we want to create a YouTube channel called Hospice TV 2025 that talks about all that research that we came up with for caregivers. So it's going to be an online resource for hospice caregivers, palliative caregivers, that they can go to 24 hours, 7 days a week, because a lot of times when caregivers, they're isolated, they're at home, they can't leave. So they have these questions like, okay, well, I don't want to call the hospice company, but I will go and look. So they're going to have all that research on that program, on that website, like podcasts, information. Did I give them too much medicine? What's that weird breathing sound that I was hearing? What is that? Because that's another thing that happens. People see or hear things and it scares them. So then they run to the emergency room, then they're automatically not on hospice anymore. They need help. They need help. And so that's where it's a concentrated bunch of data that caregivers actually need to see. And the breathing part is scary for a lot of people at end of life. But if they know what it is, then it's not so scary. It's just education. That's what it is. So they asked us to partner with them. We're going to partner with them for the next 3 years. And that's going to be something that we give them money. They match it. So WashU and Barnes Jewish, and we want to create an endowment so it's always going to be around forever. We hope to be able to have this product to be able to be used in hospitals, because when you have a baby, they show you videos on how to put a car seat in, how you breastfeed, the things like that. But when they release that person from the hospital, because a lot of people don't know this, but they don't want people dying in the hospitals because that they have a high mortality rate, and hospitals don't want that. So they'll say, they may not actually tell the family there's nothing else we can do, but they'll just go ahead and move them out the system, out of the hospital. Well, they don't prepare them enough. So they go home and they're with this patient and like, what are we going to do? So that's where this is going to help them. We're hoping to put that in the hospital so that people can actually watch videos to know what to expect. Here's a resource for you that you can use while you're in this while you're going through these things, just to have the conversation. But it's WashU, Barnes Jewish is going to be the one that puts all that information on there. So it's a great thing for our nation. It's for the nation.
Yeah.
So.
And that YouTube channel is already up now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
But
we'll
it's
put
not up
something
up 100%, but there's only like a couple things on there right now.
Dr. Deborah Parker Oliver was actually behind the Master Thought of Light Learning Institute for Global Hospice Training.
Yeah, I forgot to say that.
And the reason her mission behind this is she's cared for 2 family members already on hospice. She's taking care of her husband and her mother on hospice, and now she is taking care of her father and her stepmother. And she has found that as being a caregiver in the medical research field, that they feel alone. They need somebody that they can turn to, with those topics. And she thought, what better way of having the modern technology of YouTube and all of that to type it in and say, and I think even she really is hoping to have possible stories from other caregivers of what they've experienced.
Yeah.
Because us sitting here talking about just our stories of grief, hopefully your story has helped me, because I don't feel alone, that I wasn't the only one as a small child had problem dealing with not knowing all about the death. So as a caregiver, is it okay for me to feel angry? Because, and I know that from experience because I have a close friend that the spouse is still good, but there's just a lot of things that they're not able to do because of his health.
Gotcha.
And, you're going to be angry because you're not able to travel like you used to. You feel like I don't get to go do things with my friends. And I think with those, that's a normal reaction, but you feel guilty for feeling those. And I think if there's other people that they can visit with and know that they're not alone, that will help tremendously. And it's more than just that. It's more of the knowledge of the health part of it, but just knowing there's other people out there that's going through the same as you, and you're not alone.
Yeah.
They are going to have a board with caregivers, people that have actually experienced it, helping them with what they're going to put on that program.
That's great.
So that it's actual people.
Yeah.
Like, these are the things I experienced as a caregiver of someone on hospice.
That's great.
So these are the things you need to talk about on this channel.
That's great.
Yeah, or this website.
Kind of in the same line, caregiver burnout is one of those issues that sometimes isn't quite talked about enough in the hospice realm. There's a lot of guilt around even thinking that somebody's in a burnout mode. And oftentimes those individuals don't see it in themselves. They don't know that they're in burnout. They don't, and even if they did, a lot of times they don't think they should have burnout or feel the way they feel. And that's one of the tragedies of, this, secret society, basically, of people who are, of caregivers who are dealing with someone who's on hospice and trying to be a good caregiver, and they love them, but they still are struggling with the situation of it. And I think a lot of them don't know all the resources that are out there. If you go onto hospice, we're putting people in respite on a regular basis. And so respite for folks that don't know is if you're on hospice, that hospice will pay for your loved one to go into a facility for a short time to give that caregiver a break and travel or whatever it is. And that caregiver needs to take that help for the well-being of the person they're taking care of as well. I mean, sometimes they may not think of it that way, but that person who's in full-blown burnout, if they don't get the support, they're not going to be emotionally there for that person, it becomes a disconnect in some ways. And we have seen it, and we've picked up people onto hospice that came on way too late, and that caregiver was way in burnout, and we had to really jump in with both feet, with the social worker and the chaplain and the nurses and the aides to kind of help with it, to support that person, and then to also be like, okay, it's time for a break, and really encourage them to get them into a respite for a time to let that person rest. And oftentimes that caregiver didn't even know they were in burnout until they got out of the situation for just a little bit to be able to see those situations.
We're in a caregiver crisis. I mean, really, truly. I went to a event in Columbia for the state of Missouri for senior age, and they said that there is more people over the age of 50 in the state of Missouri than there is children right now. So if that tells you what's coming and already happening, and what people don't realize, and I try to stress this out about caregivers, being a caregiver can kill you. I'm not saying this lightly. I have seen caregivers get so deteriorated that they end up dying after the patient dies or before the patient dies.
Yeah.
Because they're so exhausted and their body breaks down.
Yeah.
And we have to figure something out. I don't know the solution.
I think you're doing it right now.
Absolutely.
We're trying.
This is part of the
solution.
solution.
It's just having this educating. And that's why I always say that person is not the only person who should be taking care of this patient.
Absolutely.
You all have to come in and take your world as you know it now is over for a little while. This is what's happening. So you can get upset, you can get frustrated, you have to work, but we have to all come together and figure it out.
We do.
Because they're like, well, I don't want to send my person to a nursing home. I said, I know you don't. No one does, truly. But, we have to figure out something. It doesn't necessarily have to be family. It could be church people, church friends. It could be your community of friends, anybody. But we have to all come together and figure this out. We
need more volunteers. We
I
need
know
more
we
people.
need to.
And it's so rewarding. People who volunteer for hospice absolutely love it. And they think it's about death, but it's not. It's about life. And oftentimes those volunteers do benefit in that way. It really makes them reflect on where they're at in their life, what they're doing with their life, what things they want to change, and go after that bucket list that you're talking about, that bucket list plus one, and trying to see if they can reframe things for them. But you're absolutely right. It's
right.
A crisis
and every
right
time when Matt and I discuss this, we're like, we are going to start. We have HFO advisory committee meetings, and we have them 3 times a year. We need to start letting people know, the hospice companies, they need volunteers. They have to have a certain percentage. We've got to get more volunteers.
Yeah.
And I think our community is lacking that information.
I don't think they know.
Because, I honestly believe that there's a lot of retired people that would love to find something to do. They just are unaware that that's an even possible thing.
Right.
And I know that it's not a fit for everyone.
Sure.
Of course. But those that would love to, we really should have some kind of a push somehow to get the word out that,
the thing is that I think a lot of people think volunteering in hospice means one thing when, we have volunteers that do taxes, that do legal, advice, that mow lawns, do handiwork around the house. You don't have to necessarily do, like personal care with someone to be a hospice volunteer. And we've seen volunteers that have started out like, I just, it's like, I'll mow their lawn here and there, or I'll, do some handyman stuff. And then it transitions to something more. And so you never know. But you're right. We have a full-time hospice volunteer recruiter coordinator in our company, and that's what they do all the time, is trying to explain what volunteering is in hospice and trying to recruit. But every hospice needs more and more volunteers. They put that in place for a reason, because those volunteers, it's just different than an employee. That individual who's in that family look at that person differently, and it means more to them in some ways because they know they're there. Not because the company told them to be there, because they volunteered to do it. It is special, for sure.
Yeah, and I was a hospice volunteer when I had 2 little kids. So I mean It doesn't. You don't have to be retired to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I went, and the man wanted me to read to him, so I read.
Yeah.
And that was beautiful, and it was easy.
Yeah.
And then when the caregiver had to go to the grocery store, I sat with him. We just talked about life. So I mean, it was a beautiful experience for me.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
Yeah, and one day when I'm not working full time, I'm going to volunteer again.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you wanted somebody to come and read to you.
I was going to read to clean my house, wash my car.
I'll wash your car.
The whole gamut. Just bring it on. Bring it on.
Oh, thanks. So you got to see a little bit of our crazy sense.
She fills my tires up with air.
She has a list already.
I do have a list.
Honey-do list for the volunteers.
Bringing it all home. For those listening who might be fearful about talking about death, what words of comfort or encouragement would each of you like to share?
The worst thing about death is missing that person so bad. That's the part that we fear the most. It's not because we're trying to be selfish. We're trying to hold on to them. It's just that's our friend, family, and we love them, and we don't want them to go. But it's part of life, and we do have to let them go. We don't know what way it's going to go.
Right.
But that's the part. And and the grief. The grief is really hard. And one thing about hospice companies that are really good is they have an awesome grief program that they take care of that, not just the patient, but they take care of the family for a year after.
Yeah.
With grief, because it is real. It's not anything you're going to get over tomorrow.
Right.
It's like, take as long as you need. Please honor it. Everybody just keeps going on with their life. When we lose that person, but we're the ones still holding on to that pain and sadness because we miss them so bad.
Yeah.
And so that's the part. It's like, I know it hurts. I know it's sad. I know it's hard to talk about it. But we have to. We've got to know what your thoughts are, what you need, what's your quality of life. We only have one life. Yeah. How do you want to live it?
Right.
Right. So let's get that plant with as low pressure and less stress as we can. Let's make it as nice and beautiful as we do the beginning,
Absolutely. So 13 months helps get through the last of that first birthday, that first Christmas, that first Thanksgiving that's happening without that individual. But I will tell you that if we had somebody who reached out after that 13 months and needed that chaplain, there's no limit.
No.
I mean, really, there really is no limit. If somebody needed someone to talk to and to deal with those situations, that kind of, because oftentimes that same chaplain or social worker was talking to that, and they knew that individual, and so there's that connection there when they need to come back and talk to somebody about that person. And oftentimes when they go onto hospice, that chaplain or social worker are going through a series of things, kind of like a bucket list. What are some things that you need to resolve? What's some closure that we can help you with? And that individual hangs on to that when that person's gone, and that individual's after that can circle back to, and I don't know that all patients or families not all families take advantage of this. But if you've had somebody on hospice and you still have a connection with that chaplain, call them up in those times when you're talking about where it's really hard, especially it'll hit you when you least expect it at the most inopportune times. I cannot tell you how many times it's hit me about my father and mother, and just like, why am I upset about this right now? I'm like, I should be the happiest right now, and you need to have that connection with someone. And that's what hospice is really about.
Right.
And we encourage people also that are going through hospice or palliative care, that patient probably needs counseling too, because they're grieving a loss of the use of things of their body, of being able to do the things they used to do, the grief of leaving their family. I mean, it's a lot. I have a friend of mine who's got a brain tumor. He has had one for over 10 years now. Half of his body's not working. The disease has progressed enough that it's one half, and he grieves that. He grieves that he's not able to work the job he did before, to do the things with his family like he used to throw a ball, the simplest of things. So there's different phases of the process. So I always try to encourage counseling anytime for any of the family members and for the patient too.
Right.
So.
And it helps avoid those Jerry Springer moments when you can get that closure and deal with those issues. Because oftentimes, especially with guys, all our emotions get balled up into anger. Like if we're sad, we're angry. If we're, whatever, it always comes out as anger for us for some reason. And we is in our society, we're supposed to be tough and not be affected by things and different things like that. And that's just all BS. Like we have to stop thinking like that and start thinking that, when we're dealing with somebody who's dying, we need help just as much as everybody else. And to kid ourselves that we're beyond that is just, it's just not realistic.
No.
Well, and it's just the way the society has put on men to be. Well, I mean, I'm not saying that anyone's at fault for that, but it's just what we're not supposed to be weak, but we can't control that, and it's okay. I guess if just everyone could stop and realize that we're human, and it's okay to have those emotions, and it's okay to break down. Bottling those things up and not discussing those issues and problems of the grief is just going to continue to follow you and build up even more. Yeah. And it's better to just find ways to talk about him and let him go.
Yeah, it happens all the time. I mean, I visited with a family last week, and the man is a man's man. He did everything. He did construction, and so here he is in a chair. He can't hardly move. He got signed up for hospice, and we had those conversations, and he's like, he breaks out in tears. Because I was actually able for him to discuss what is the things that really is going to improve your quality of life. And he worries because he wants to stay strong for his family and not be a burden. That's the biggest thing. So, but he's good now. He's on hospice. His pain is under control. He's happy. He's enjoying his life. He's not sleeping all the time. He's not just in pain.
Yeah.
He's actually, they're treating the symptoms. And he's able to like everybody better, When you don't feel good, you're cranky.
Right.
So let's help these people not be so cranky.
Absolutely. Those stages,
let's get them some help.
Those stages of grief that happen to the patient and to the family has to start sometime. I mean, they can put it off, and you've seen the ill effects of them putting it off too long, and what a disaster that can be. But once they start down that path and they get to that acceptance zone, it's the sweet spot where they can really can enjoy those last days.
Yes.
The number one thing that I hear the most is people say, "I wished I would have signed up sooner."
Yes.
I tell that because, it's the truth. I guess there's times where you have somebody that signs on way early and they saw the full benefits of it. But there's other times that somebody doesn't, and that's usually what they say is, I wished I would have signed up sooner.
Well, they feel like they were giving up, and it's not about giving up. It's just about your quality of life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's not permanent.
Mm-mm.
Like you can sign up and go and stop anytime. Like there's
Exactly.
no rules on that or anything.
Well,
It's that you have to qualify, obviously.
Absolutely.
But if you don't want to be on it anymore, you stop.
Yeah. And it's situations where if somebody's going through cancer treatments and they stop and they go on hospice and there's a new clinical drug or something, they can choose to go back off the hospice and do that clinical trial and see. And that's what people don't understand, that, it's not a one set thing. You're on it until you die. You can go off of it if you wanted to pursue a new type of treatment. And, and I tell everyone, hey, that's your right.
Yeah.
That's your right to do that.
That's the biggest thing we see too, is people want to make sure they're in control.
Yeah.
They want control of their life. They should.
And we should.
We want you to, please.
Yeah.
We want you to be in control of your mind, body, and your soul. Tell us what you want so we can make it better for you.
So true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So tell us more about this End of Life Summit.
Okay. So the End of Life Care Summit, we offer educational credits to doctors, nurses, social workers, chaplains, people that are on the front lines, because a lot of times you have to get those educational credits every year. So a lot of times you have to go out of town, you have to do them online. It costs you a lot of money. So we thought, why can't we do it here in Springfield, Missouri? We're the third largest city in Missouri. Why can't we do it here? Instead of them having to go to Kansas City or St. Louis. And so we thought, well, let's do that. So we did that last year. And we thought we'd have 100 people. We had over 300 people.
Wow.
And we had, so it just blew our minds that it was that popular. And we had all 3 hospitals partner with us. So that was fortunate.
Yeah.
And they were like, we need to do that again. You guys need to do that again. I'm like, I don't know, because we got this soft surrender film and exhibition. Don't know if we can do that. Well, we got to. We'll do it. Okay. So here we are. We're doing it again in 2026.
That's awesome.
And so
great.
we're going to give our community an opportunity to get their educational credits. At our last one, we had Dr. Mayo's grandson from Mayo Clinic come in, fly in for our event. We have really good speakers because we're Springfield, Missouri, and we can do it. So we have really great speakers, and it's really worth people's time to come. We had some very high marks from the medical community. So as you can see, we're not just targeting the community, we're targeting the frontline people too. When representing hospice companies too.
Yeah, we love it.
And that is
We're letting you all do your job so that we can go out and educate.
We need it.
Yeah, but we're so passionate about it, because if I hadn't experienced it, I may not have. I've been a volunteer and I've been a hospice caregiver. And if Matt hadn't been through what he's been through in his life, we relate to people different ways.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's February 13th.
Yes.
2026.
Okay.
We'll
The
mark
day
it down.
before Valentine's Day. Yes.
Awesome.
Mhm.
And there's a
link on our website.
Which I have a card for that, too.
On our website.
Fantastic.
Link on our
Put that in the show
website.
notes.
Tickets are available. Booths are available.
Mhm.
So
Right on.
give us a call if we have anybody has any questions.
Okay.
And then on that soft surrender event film, we have a special code for people that are on in medical community. They get a special rate
Okay.
to go to the film, and because we want that puppy sold out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how many tickets we have. We have a lot.
Yeah,
I don't
good.
know.
Yeah. That's
So It's
awesome.
gonna be good. We're excited.
But the more, anybody can come. We're gonna send out special codes to seniors, to churches, just all the places. Anytime that we can get anybody to sit in the seat, watch this film, they're forever changed. They're gonna go tell 10 people, and who knows?
Yeah.
And even in our bucket list +1, we have what's the difference between hospice and palliative care. I don't care if they're 18 years old. I'm telling them what the difference is, because I didn't know. And they take that information and bring it home and said, I heard something in my class like a year ago, and they said that's good. Mom, you need to look into that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we can't, discount people from talking, but it's coming. People are getting more and more educated and friendly about it, and those myths are going to go away.
Yeah.
We're going to
Yep.
bomb them. Bomb those myths.
That's right.
Get rid of them.
Good.
I would like to take this time to thank John, Haven Home Hospice, and In Good Company, Elder Care in Your Backyard, for allowing us this opportunity to come and share a little bit about ourselves and a whole lot about HFO, Hospice Foundation for Outreach. We are here to support the community in any way possible. So if you have any questions, just give us a call.
Yes.
Phone number is 417-861-9543. Love to hear from you.
Yes. And our website is hospiceoutreach.org.
Fantastic. And that's where listeners can find information on the Soft Surrender film,
Yes.
which premieres November the 1st.
And our end-of-life care.
End of Life Care, Light, Bucket List +1. That's all on there?
Light's not.
Okay.
Yet.
Okay. Coming
But
soon.
Coming soon.
Gotcha.
In construction.
Fantastic. And what is that website one more time?
It's hospiceoutreach.org.
Fantastic.
Yes. Come see us, call us, we'll help you.
Anjanette, Matt, thank you for doing what you do, and thank you for being here. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode.
And we'd love to stay connected. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and on Instagram at In Good Company Elder Care Podcast.
You can also find us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at IGC Pod, and on TikTok at IGC Elder Care Podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to In Good Company Elder Care in Your Backyard. I'm John Ray, and I've been joined by my amazing co-host, Spencer Ernst. Special thanks to our executive producer, Alex Wallace, for helping bring this show to life. Until next time, take care, and remember, you are always in good company.